Patty Healy. Oh, it's not on.
Here.
Jim McIntosh,
Present.
Jerry Bruman,
Here.
Rocky Shanahan here, Sharon Elliott,
Here.
Bev Boykin,
Here.
Susie
Here.
Rupert,
Here.
Don Bush,
Here.
John Ratcliffe.
Here.
Oh, there he is. All board members are present. I'm going to deviate from the agenda. I've had a request from Elise Holder that was to address the board, and they have another appointment. So, Roxy, you have the floor. Make sure it's on and eat the mic.
Okay, Roxy Fitch, Lot 120. As you may or may not know, my dad had emergency gallbladder surgery. It was supposed to be a simple in and out. It was not. It was in such bad shape. They worked 2.5 hours to get it out the new way and had to go back to the old-fashioned way. So he was cut from stem to stern, and I was in Michigan at the time. I asked if he wanted me to come home. He said, absolutely not, we'll figure out something. So he left it up to me to figure out from Michigan how somebody was going to take care of me and Phil.
Ask her to speak up. I can't hear anything either. This is Susie.
Okay, the board was very compassionate, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for all they did to allow my family to come down and take care of my dad when I could not be here. The board allowed my family to stay in my house, and I thank you for that. I don't know what I would have done if you guys hadn't been compassionate enough to do that. Thank you.
And thank you, you're welcome. Okay, back on the agenda. Will the secretary please read the minutes of the last meeting?
October 21, 2021, Pledge of Allegiance followed by the roll call. Roll call, President Patty Healy, Vice President Jim McIntosh, Treasurer Jerry Bruman, Secretary Rocky Shanahan, Director Sharon Elliott, Director Bev Boykin, Susie Rupert was on the convener, Don Bush, John Radcliffe was on the convener. Jim McIntosh made a motion to accept Bev Boykin's resignation from her current position. Jerry Bruman seconded. Motion passed unanimously. Jim McIntosh made a motion that Jerry Bruman seconded to approve Bev Boykin to fulfill the position vacated by David Arndorfer until July 2022. Motion passed unanimously. It is 2022.
Okay.
Jim McIntosh made a motion to accept the appointment of John Ratcliffe to fulfill the position vacated by Bev Boykin until, no, I'm sorry. Bev Boykin is 2024. John Ratcliffe is July of 2022. Bev Boykin seconded, motion passed unanimously. Minutes, approval corrections, Sharon Elliott made a motion to accept the minutes from the September 16th, 2021 as written. Jim McIntosh made an amended motion to accept the minutes as corrected. Bev Boykin seconded, motion passed unanimously. Treasurer's report, allocated income from maintenance fees, $20,717. All other income, $9,974. Total September income, $30,692. September expenses, $23,183. September income exceeded expenses, $7,509. September summary report submitted for audit. Utility fund balance, 33,936. Storage fund balance, 15,673. CARF balance, September 1, 2021, 172,632. Interest earned, $3. Transfer excess lot amount, 16,968. Expenses, lot 7 drainage, 1,053. Wi-Fi network B, 568. Wi-Fi network A, 3,003. Balance September 30th, 2021, $184 and, $184,980. AWLs, 154, members, 155, renters, 16. Investors report, Edward Jones certificate of deposit, AWL funds, 133,461. M&O funds, 50,000. Total undeposited Edward Jones as of month end, 183,461. Interest paid this month, $3. Interest paid fiscal year to date, 9. U.S. Treasury T-bills, 0. Total funds invested as of March end, 183,461. Total fiscal year to date interest earned, 9. Manager's report. Due to personal differences and the lack of his ability to do his duties, Drew is no longer employed. The park is coming into a hard winter, so ditches and leaves are going to become an issue. If you have the ability to clean the drains, do so. If not, contact the office. The park is still dealing with lot turnovers. Correspondence, none. Committee reports, audit, no report. Bylaws, no report. Election, no report. Landscape, no report. Finance, Darhope, 31, reported the Finance Committee is in the process of reviewing and updating a number of financial guidelines, policies, and procedures. Some of these changes are needed to include bylaw changes adopted this year. Part of this process is to look for other park documents these changes may affect, and that all documents and processes are consistent with these changes. The committee is in the process of developing a policy for distribution of excess rental pool income, which occurred for the first time this year and is expected to occur more often in the future, as fewer and fewer lots are in the rental pool. The Finance Committee's recommendation will be to transfer these excess funds to CARF. The details of the process will be outlined in the proposed policy, expected to be presented at the November open board meeting. Jerry Bruman trained committee members this week on some budget basics and what's involved in monitoring and calculating CARF. This training will continue in early November. Emergency preparedness, Julian Crane, 197, reported on some seasonal reminders. An extra rig can be brought to your lot on November 1. Be prepared for winter, as the area is due to have a lot of rain over the next week, and into winter we may have snow like a couple of years ago. Keep your traveling rigs ready, make sure the propane tanks are full, and if possible, to have an extra tank available in case of an emergency. If you're able to get a generator for your rig, please do. Have appropriate fuel to start it. PCM, George Boykin, 87, reported that the last meeting was a difficult meeting going over projects that were going on in the park. Some issues were turned back to the board of directors. There are 2 requests that will be coming up, such as electrical and the drainage ditch on the west side. There will not be a PCM meeting until December. Wi-Fi, Dick Shanahan, 62, reported equipment for the planned upgrades have been acquired. Installation of the equipment continues. As new equipment is installed, there will be a brief interruptions to availability. New equipment may require a different login, and for those using the small Wi-Fi repeaters, these may need to be adjusted. The committee will help with these issues. A new piece of equipment was installed in the office last Thursday. Wi-Fi from the lower section of the park was interrupted for a couple of hours for that, and then again a couple of days later to make some changes. Jackson Jills, Linda Essex, 13, reported Jackson Jills will have a meeting on Monday, October 5th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Discussion will be about donations to the food pantry and setting dates for decorating the clubhouse for Christmas. Watch for flyers with more information. The annual giving of Toys for Tots and the distribution date by the firemen of Station 1 in Sutherland is to be determined. The park will join the Lions Club to provide clothing to homeless children in our community. Sharon Elliott stated children under 6 and teens are in particular need. The Treasury has $2,366.70 as of September 30th, 2021. The ice cream and soda continue to be a source of enjoyment. The rummage table brought in $168.34 in September. Joan Larson, 196, is warming up the bingo computer. Games will start Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Communications. Tom Hope, 31, reported the Communications Committee has decided to change the password for security reasons for our members-only page. That information will be disseminated to members written on the top of the Timber Valley log, which will be distributed on the 1st of November. For those out of the park or traveling, simply email Dick Shanahan, Tom Hoke, or the park office to receive the password. Please identify yourself as the committee is trying to limit that password to the members. The committee is experimenting with streaming the board meeting. The vision is that the members that are traveling or members in the park that cannot attend the meeting will be able to get on their computer or on their smart TV and be able to see and hear the board meetings. Unfinished business, Lot 7 fence. Jim McIntosh made a motion to form an ad hoc committee composed of 2 board members, 2 park members, and the park manager to study the issue of the proposed light barrier to be located at the west edge of Lot 7. He further motioned that the ad hoc committee report to the board with their recommendations at the November 2021 agenda meeting. Don Bush seconded, motion passed unanimously. Flag protocol. Sharon Elliott made a motion to amend the motion made at the April 15th, 2021 board meeting to read: the American flags located at the office and clubhouse be lowered to half-staff when ordered by the President of the United States or the Governor of Oregon. The responsibility for this activity will be a park member volunteering through Jackson Jills. Jim McIntosh seconded, the motion passed unanimously. New business. Mail committee guidelines. Sharon Elliott made a motion to approve the updated mail committee guidelines. Bev Boykin seconded, motion passed unanimously. Emergency preparedness guidelines. Jim McIntosh made a motion to accept the emergency preparedness guidelines as written. Sharon Elliott seconded, motion passed unanimously. Audit committee guidelines. Jim McIntosh made a motion to accept the audit committee guidelines as written. Sharon Elliott seconded, motion passed unanimously. Communications guidelines. Jim McIntosh made a motion to accept the communications guidelines as written. Bev Boykin seconded, motion passed unanimously. Shop concrete floor repair. Jim McIntosh made a motion to authorize the park manager and PCM committee to repair the failed floor in the building. Funds not to exceed $4,000 funded by CARD. Jim McIntosh further motion to have the park manager arrange to have gutters installed on the maintenance building, cost not to exceed $800 funded by the general fund. Don Bush seconded. John Radcliffe made a motion that a drawing should be made to show the location of the slab to be removed, how the slab will be adhered to the existing slab with no vertical separation, the thickness of the new slab, size and depth of the stem wall, and what can be used as a base under the concrete. Jerry Bruman seconded, motion passed unanimously. Jim McIntosh modified his motion that the park manager and PCM repair the failed floor in the maintenance building as per John Ratcliffe's motion. Construction will not start until they have board approval. The funding will be $4,000 funded by CART. He further motioned that the board authorize the park manager to arrange to have gutters installed on the maintenance building cost not to exceed $800 funded by the general fund to be done immediately. Jerry Bruman seconded, motion passed unanimously. Shed ventilation, Jim McIntosh made a motion to give the shed ventilation project procedures back to PCM and lot improvement committees for more information. Rocky Shanahan seconded, motion passed unanimously. Air rifle archery range, Bev Boykin made a motion to send a directive to the archery and shooting club stating that the board receive a plan that addresses safety and liability. Bev Boykin modified the motion to add that there will be no shooting until the board approves their construction plan. Jerry Bruman seconded, motion passed unanimously. We're almost done. Spillway along the west access road, George Boykin explained that the spillway along the west access road would entail. John Ratcliffe made a motion to approve the project and funding up to $5,000 from CART. John Ratcliffe modified his motion to be a board-approved assessment, not CART, not to exceed $5,000. Jim McIntosh seconded, motion passed unanimously. Electric report, George Boykin reported on the electric survey from Cascade Electric. Jim McIntosh made a motion to add an additional $1,000 to the original $5,000 that was authorized for this research project so that Cascade Electric can complete their studies on the park's options. Susie Rupert seconded, motion passed unanimously. Lot 79 update. Rocky Shanahan read an update from Kim Watkins, business manager concerning lot 79. Parks credit card. Jerry Bruman commented on the change to the parks credit card. Mike Hilty, former treasurer, was removed from the card and Jerry Bruman, current treasurer, was added. The credit limit increased to $25,000. Refund, Jerry Bruman reported the park received a refund from the United States Treasury for $2,001.75 as a refund of our estimated tax payment for the return. Office assistant, Patty Healy announced that Melissa Hanna has been hired as the office assistant through Express Employment Professionals. Jim McIntosh made a motion to adjourn, Don Bush seconded, motion passed.
Can I get? I might need it.
Rocky.
Thank you, Rocky.
Yeah.
Okay, Beth?
I'm not sure if I have the latest version, but in the version I have, it says that John Ratcliffe's position is through 2023, and it should be 2022.
Yes, the,
Microphone.
Patty brought that to my attention, and I thought, well, I had changed it and brought a copy up here and took one down to the office, and I just assumed that the rest of the board members got it.
Okay. I had a couple, I might have thrown the wrong one away.
I know, there were 2 or 3 that went out.
And I know it makes the meetings longer, but this is one reason why it's best to read the minutes. This is our last chance before they become a legal document that we can make corrections or ask questions. Okay, thank you, Rocky. Treasurer's report, Gary? Yes? Linda?
During the reading of the minutes, I noticed that it was,
Speak up.
Is your mic on?
yes,
Yeah, it's on.
I noticed that it was mentioned twice about the gutters. I'm not sure, is there necessary for being, it looks like your same thing, just needs to be moved or out, removed, moved out. About the gutters being, that you had said, yes, do it, not
As
right.
an administrative thing, she'll reread it, and if it's redundant, she can
Okay,
modify it, and then we will
we can take.
reaffirm it at the next meeting. Or do you want to take a minute right now, Rocky, and look at it? While you're doing that, I'm going to have Jerry Blumen give us the treasurer's report.
Okay, I'd like to make a few comments during my reading of this report. For October 2021, our allocated income from maintenance fees is $718. All other income was $7,481. So October income total was $28,199, of which we had in October we had expenses of $63,989, which meant that October expenses exceeded income by about $35,790. Now the reason for this is because we paid our property taxes in October, and that's an actual expense that is spread out over the year. And the reason there's such a difference here is in the way of our accounting that we're doing. And if you remember at the agenda meeting, Elaine mentioned that we have a hybrid accounting system wherein we do some cash accounting and some accrual type accounting. We've got a mismatch of some of that stuff. And so this report isn't entirely accurate of what we've actually done for that particular month. And this is something that Kim and myself and Elaine are going to work toward having it set up properly by the 1st of July, the first of next fiscal year. Okay, let me continue. Utility fund balance was $33,936, which I believe is the same as last month. The storage fund balance was $15,673, which I believe also was the same. CARF, the balance at October 1st was $184,980. We earned $3 in interest. And in this report, we showed that we paid out of CARF for some tires for the utility vehicle, and also we ordered checks for the CARF account. Those really shouldn't be considered to be CARF expenses, and that is something that the Finance Committee looked at and realized that these were incorrect entries being charged to CARF. They should be charged to M&O expenses, and that'll be corrected for next time. The one expense we did have that related directly to CARF was our electrical survey, and during the month of October, we spent $3,170 there. So for the report here, it says that the balance is $181,222. It is actually slightly higher than that based on those corrections. On the AWL list for this month, we had, at the end of the month, we had 152 members or potential members on the AWL list. We had 150 members in the park, and we had 13 renters during the month. Let's see, and I wanted to point out that the financial statements are posted on the wall in the dining room for you to look at. Okay, and for the investment report, pretty much the same as last month. We had $133,461 invested in AWL funds and a certificate of deposit through Edward Jones. We had $50,000 of M&O funds invested there for a total of $183,461. Again, like last month, there's no investments going on, no T-bills, anything like that. So our total funds invested for the month $183,461, and interest earned year-to-date was $9.
Wow.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, and Rocky, did you want to report on Linda's question?
There was a motion, and then we discussed it, and then there was a modified motion, and that's why it's repeated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Manager's report. Rocky?
First item is the laundry room. It seems like lately that we have been doing a lot of unnecessary repairs. Lower dryer doors have a handle on the side, that is where the magnet is to hold the door closed. When you grab the top of the door, it not only bends the door, it breaks the handle. Let's take better care and refrain from abuse of doors. Washing machines. Front loaders, when putting clothes in, you need to make sure they go in past the rubber in the door. Buttons, zippers, and other things get caught in the rubber and rips them. Please make sure all clothes are inside and don't overload them. Unnecessary costs. We water issues and leaks. We like to think of our personal loss, but in the process of the last few weeks, leaks costing $2,000 a day. I discovered several leaks, so when I sent out a message, everyone should get out and check your lots for leaks because this is costing money. So I recommend, because it took us so long to find this issue, there is a preventative maintenance we can do to find these leaks faster. Install water meters on the standpipes, then we can see excess use quicker. Only a suggestion. Propane, as it is getting colder and wetter, we would like people to get their tanks down to be filled soon after 9 a.m. because as much as it is uncomfortable for you to be out in the cold rain, remember the volunteers that they're working in this cold and wet also and would like to get out of this as soon as possible too. Please be thoughtful of the volunteers.
Thank you, Rocky.
Yeah, I'd like to make one correction in that report, if you don't mind. The amount of money that we were losing from the water leak is probably a total of $2,000. We were losing 2,000 gallons per day, not $2,000. Okay? Because we lost about 28,000 gallons. And I believe, according to Kim, they charge us $3 and something per gallon, per 1,000 gallons. So it's much less than, say, $100 or $200 of actual money lost.
Saying no.
About 20-some dollars a day. I think it's about a penny and a half per gallon, so if I'm not mistaken, I
But I think he's also talking about the sewer charge.
not including the sewer charge.
Yeah, no, that's about the same then.
Okay, thank you. Correspondence, Rocky?
I have a letter from Kathy and Gerald Perry, Lot 7. Dear board members, there has been much discussion regarding some type of barrier to be installed to replace the tree and shrubs that were removed. After the tree was removed, we felt quite exposed. With tree and shrubs in place, it gave us just enough barrier that everyone walking by or vehicles coming by, we could feel comfortable with our patio furniture in the yard. Now we are wide open to everyone and we spend a lot less time in our yard. The light reflection from vehicles is not an issue for us. We would like to see some type of shrubbery, maybe 6 to 8 feet in length to correct the problem. Perhaps some planters with nandina or similar shrubs. I'm sure Linda Essex could make some suggestion as to type of plants. There are plants in barrels across the street. If we installed similar wine barrels with a brick support under them, it would be more uniform and inviting space for visitors as well. A beautification of our park. If you accept our suggestion, we would be happy to maintain them while we were at home in the park. Thank you for your consideration of our request and suggestion.
And that is under new business.
Yes,
And that's the only correspondence?
yes.
Okay, committee reports. Audit? No, we had quite a report at the agenda meeting, and we had a little workshop afterwards. It was very enlightening. Communications. Tom?
Yes, I have a report. Primarily it deals with the directive that we got from the board regarding the trail. Bob Filer has informed us that he's not real enthused about having his name on the trail. So we would request that the board take action to change the name of the trail from the Bob Filer Trail to the Timber Valley Trail. This will involve minimal cost, and Joan Larson has got some samples of what the new trail logo will look like, and I'll pass it over to her for a second.
Isn't this on new business, Jim?
It is, but this is their committee report.
Okay.
So far, we have put up at every entrance to the trail a sign similar to this. It also includes a different picture on each one. Rather than, and it was his suggestion that rather than calling it the Bob Filer Trail, we call it the Timber Valley Trail, and also on the signage, designed and built by Bob Filer. And we're hoping that the board can make it possible for us to make the changes, not only on these signs, but on the larger sign that we are in the process of coming up with for the head entrance. The head entrance, I was trying to say headwaters, but so.
And that is on the agenda, so we will address that under new business.
Good, thank you.
Emergency preparedness. Morning, Julianne.
Good morning, friends and members of the board. Julianne Crane, Site 197. The Emergency Preparedness Committee has been working for a short amount of time, but thinking for a long time, on to bring local emergency preparedness experts in to present to Timber Valley members, not just the emergency committee. But what we've been able to do is contact the Sutherland emergency manager, and he has agreed to come to the Emergency Preparedness Committee on January 11th, which is a Tuesday, which will be our regularly scheduled meeting. And we thought that if we could get interesting people to come, other than just us to get up there and talk, that we would have more members of the park come and join us and learn about emergency preparedness. So the emergency manager, Brandon Garr, G-A-R-R, is that McGarr? Okay. He will be coming in January. We have also been in touch with the Sutherland Police Captain, Kurt Sorensen, and he has agreed to come to speak on an active shooter. And that will be sometime after the holidays. We have not settled on a specific date at this time. And again, we're hoping that we can do it on Tuesday at 10 a.m. The emergency manager has also agreed that the fire department will come back in the spring to do CPR and the defibrillator training. So we're excited about getting them back in the spring. Another thing is that just like being prepared for winter, I have been reading about, again, the Cascadia earthquake. There has been some recent activity around being prepared for that in the state of Washington. And there was an article in the Spokesman Review that reviewed how their Department of Transportation is getting bridges and roads prepared for the Cascadia earthquake. And those of you that are not familiar with that, has been predicted for decades. And what they are focusing in Washington on is primarily bridges that were built between 1960 and 1970, because they have no seismic consideration built into them. And the reason that I'm bringing up Washington's bridges is because of this road that we have right outside our building, practically, I-5, and it has bridges on it. And that is where all of our supplies go up and down. So again, even though this is a maybe thing, and maybe we'll all die before it happens, but just in case we don't, we need to have a minimum of 2 weeks. And we had a couple of potential members on the wait list talk to our group last week, and they had responded to a number of emergencies after the first responders. And they said that essentially all you could plan on is for, help me with the... FEMA to come in.
And the Red Cross.
And the Red Cross for 1 month, and then they disappear. And what they may bring in are large-size gloves and a bottle of water. So we essentially just really need to be, again, aware of what may be out there for us. And with all of the moisture that has been coming down, it is something to really keep in mind. And those of you that try to go to Reedsport occasionally, we have found out this past week that it just takes one rock slide to close up that road for, they thought it was going to be a day, and then it's been a much longer time, and one lane is open, but that's one road. And so we're going to be challenged. But I am taking a look. I've got plenty of toilet paper. It's the water that I've got to worry about, I think. Toilet paper is easier to store. Any questions? Thank you.
I have one other addition to your report. And that is that the two ladies that are on the waiting list, number 9, also ask us what our recovery program is. I mean, we have an emergency response, but what's our recovery program?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, that's, first we gotta recover.
Right. Right.
And then, you know, have enough to eat and to drink. And then we'll rebuild.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. Finance Committee, Dar, I know you've been busy.
Yes, she has.
This is too low. That's his.
We've
Don't share plastic bags?
Thank you. Okay. The Finance Committee members have continued to review and revise and update our various guidelines and procedures, and we have submitted to the board under new business, I would presume, the CARF guidelines, our utility assessment account guidelines, capitalization policy, and the reserve accounts policy and procedure. In addition, we have those are revised guidelines, updated. The committee is also submitting a new policy, distribution of excess rental pool funds policy and procedure. This has come about because for the first time this past fiscal year, we've had an excess in our rental pool income. And it's expected that this may occur in the future with the increasing cost of goods and supplies and services and our aging infrastructure. There will be additional strains on our capital asset repair replacement fund, the CARF fund. And it is the Finance Committee's recommendation to transfer these excess rental pool funds into CARF whenever that does occur. Thank you. Oh, Darrell, Lot 31.
Thank you, Dar. Jackson Gills. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hear me okay? All right. I just wanted to give,
In closer?
report. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Now I think we're properly geared up. Members have a new game in the cupboard to play. Fast Track was purchased by Joyce Stallnaker on behalf of the Jackson Jills, and the game is in its own carrying bag, very cute, with cards and pegs and all ready to go. It was decided at our October 25th meeting to donate $500 to the Sutherland Food Pantry to purchase holiday meals for their clients. Also, $250 will go to the Lions to help purchase clothing for the homeless children in our community. Our annual tree trimming and decorating the clubhouse will take place on Saturday, November 27th at 10 a.m. Come join us for this fun project. We need strong persons to put the tree together and those that do not fear the necessary ladder climbing. Also, we need helpers to put up the lights on the outside of the clubhouse. And Dar helped us with that before, and maybe she could supervise a few people to get those up. The firemen from Sutherland Engine 1 will be coming on Saturday, December 11th, about 9 to 10 a.m., and to collect the toys that our Timber Valley members give so generously. If you choose to give money instead of toys, you can leave your check in our treasurer Cheryl Ridland's box at 108 or mine at Lucky 13, number 13 in Essex. We will forward it to the department. There are still a few seats available at the table at Apple Peddlers for Thanksgiving dinner. Sign up is still in the clubhouse. Bingo has begun on Wednesdays, and we need more players to grow those money pots. Bring a neighbor or some of the visitors to play next Wednesday. Sodas costs have risen in the stores, and to keep pace and continue to provide them here in the clubhouse, it was voted to raise the price from 75 cents to $1 a can. Also, water will be provided in the coolers in the future for $1 each. Steve Williams, number 81, is our new flag steward. Guidelines have been established, and you can get a copy of them at the office. Steve will be handling the lowering and raising of the flags at the clubhouse and office and replacement of worn flags. Contact him if you would like to assist in these duties. The Jack and Jill's Clubhouse guidelines are our work in progress. The chairman and committee will meet on Wednesday, December 1st to finalize for the board approval. As of October 25th, our bank account total was $2,903.60. Submitted by Linda Essex, number 13.
Thank you, Linda, and I think we owe Jackson Jills a round of applause for their generosity to the community. That says a lot about Timber Valley, so thank you. Okay, are there any other community reports that I have not asked for that somebody needs to speak on?
Jim, this is Patty. I have a question.
Yes, Patty?
Did we do the flag salute? Is that important to do? Did I miss it?
You missed
You missed it. Are you talking about the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of the meeting?
Yes.
Yes, we did. I've got 28, I have 28 witnesses.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, moving on, I don't believe we have any unfinished business. Anybody disagree with that? Then we're gonna move to new business, which we have a lot of. Okay, lot number 7 letter. We had an ad hoc committee. Do we have a report from them?
No.
No, okay. Do I have any motions on the lot 7 letter? Going once?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so at this time, evidently, there's going to be no action
No action.
on that. Okay, the Bob Filer Trail sign. You just heard a report on that. Does anyone have a motion on that?
I move that we allow the Communications Committee to change the signs as requested by Bob Filer. And if there's additional cost, let us know, and there is no additional cost?
No, not really.
Not really?
It's within the budget.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second to Jerry's motion?
I would like to second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we allow the Communications Committee to make what changes they deem to the trail signs as needed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? John?
I would hope that it would be, your motion might be to change the name from the Bob Filer Trail to the Timber Valley Trail.
Jerry, do you so move?
I amend my motion to include changing the name from the Bob Filer Trail to the Timber Valley Trail.
And Sharon, do you still second that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question. All board members in favor, please raise a hand. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Susie, how do you vote?
Yes.
John, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Patty, you get a vote, so how do you vote?
I'm so excited. And I vote yes.
Okay, so that's 8-4, not against. Okay, flag steward guidelines. We have, all the board members have gotten those, and there should be some of those out in the, on the table. So do I have a motion to accept the flag steward guidelines as written?
I move to accept the flag steward guidelines as written.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Sharon has moved to accept the flag story guidelines as written, and Bev has seconded the motion. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to
Yes,
call.
I have something to,
Yes, Patty.
yes,
Excuse
can you
me.
hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
That's okay. I think there must be a delayed reaction. I just have a couple of questions reading that. I like the idea of the flag steward. Is that person going to have other volunteers to learn what he knows? Because apparently he knows about an app that gives him some information. Should that be added to this guideline? Also, let's see. I've got it written down here. Do we need to post a list of volunteers that will do this? Right now, we just have the one person, okay? And my first note was it to be added to the Jackson Jails guidelines. Right now, it's on the Sunshine Committee guidelines. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Linda.
Oh, Jack and Jill.
Linda, lot 13. Patty, can you hear me?
I
you hear
can.
me, Patty?
You said yes.
Yes.
Okay. You might not have, I don't know if you have the most current copy. Sunshine and I met, and also Steve Williams, the volunteer for the flag steward, met, and then we made changes to Sunshine, which have been submitted, and we took that off of Sunshine, that flag mention there. It's a different statement. And do you have the one that has four different things?
Yes, I do. I've read it.
Okay. So what was your question again? That we, as far as the volunteers, it's just Steve, and there are others that may want to participate, but it's not mandatory that there's more. There is myself and Kathy have, more or less taken that on. So as chairs of Sunshine and chairs of Jack and Jill's, but it really isn't. It's spelled out in the Timber Valley Flag Steward guidelines, the way that everybody gets notified.
I understand that. But if Steve's not available and you or Kathy's not available, do you need to put it in writing on these guidelines? Because the guidelines are exactly that, to guide us when you and I aren't here.
Well, it would be upon me, the chairman, to get someone else. And we don't know who that would be. So I feel that putting additional names on here is just, I don't know the necessity of it. I'm willing to listen to a discussion about it. But it would...
I don't think names should be put on there, but I think it needs a little bit more thought on how the shop steward and who volunteers for it. Also, my other question on this is incorporated in the Sunshine guidelines that we're looking at right now. Okay, the Sunshine Committee is a subcommittee of Jackson Jills. According to the documents that I have, Jackson Jills will sign it. However, it's before the board right now. Does the board approve subcommittee guidelines, or should this? I think it's good that the board has read this and looked at it, but should it go back to the Jackson Jills for that group to take care of it?
It will be
That's my question.
on Monday. But the idea is that the timing has gotten in here as far as I wanted it to be put forward to, because the way that it was.
Jim, do you understand? Jim, do you understand my question, the guidelines?
I do, Patty, but right now,
Okay.
right now, Linda has the floor, and she's commenting on your
Okay.
concerns.
I'm sorry, I thought she was through.
I almost am. Sunshine's is, there was a change in there, and that's why I just put, there was a change in their guidelines that I wanted, and Kathy and I wanted that to be put forward to the board to know that we were making changes. And it's, will be in the office so that they'll be able to do it, to hand it out to whoever would ask for it. It's, as well as the flag steward guidelines. Those are also available to them to ask for it at the office.
So if I understand correctly, the board does not need to approve these guidelines. They just need to look at them and make sure they're comfortable with them, and they will be approved by the Jackson Gills Committee and the Sunshine Committee as appropriate.
Yes, that's correct.
Kathy?
That's exactly what I was going to say, as the subcommittee of the Jackson Gills, we shouldn't even be bothering the board with the flag or the sunshine. They're done at our meetings and voted on and should be kept there.
Okay, so this is basically information for the board only.
Okay, Jim, that was my point.
Okay. Well, you made it and they made it, so I think we understand. Thank you. So
Okay, thank you.
the board has been informed on that. No action is required from the board at this time.
Did I make a motion to accept it?
Yes.
So you need to
I would like to
withdraw.
rescind my motion.
Okay. So rescinded. Okay, shop floor repair, Rocky, did you want to comment on this or make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we go ahead, we got the plans from John Ratcliffe written out on the shop floor. And so I make a motion to go ahead and repair the field floor in the maintenance building, funded by CARF,
Not to exceed,
not to exceed $4,000.
okay. Do I have a second to the motion?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board direct the park manager to make the necessary repairs to the floor in the maintenance shop, funds to come out of CARF not to exceed $4,000. Is there any more discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All present board members in favor, please raise a hand. And I have 5. Patty?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Susie?
Yes.
Okay, passed unanimously. And Rocky, will you see that the park manager gets that directive?
I will.
Okay, shed venting specifications, is that going to be TCM or whom? I thought we were already talked about that. Oh, that's what we talked about it. We need to approve the
We need
specs.
to approve the PCM's proposal.
Okay, and I believe all the board members have got the latest copy of that.
Yes.
Rocky, do you have a motion or is that somebody else?
No, I make a motion that we approve the PCM's proposal for the undershed venting specifications.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Don seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Susie would like to make some discussion here.
Yes, Susie, go ahead, you have the floor.
Can I be recognized?
You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Wonderful. I think if this motion should be tabled, in my opinion, we need to know, need to have a clearer understanding of how we're going to do this, when we're going to do it, and who pays for this, because it's all fine and dandy, but if we don't know how, why, and who's going to pay for it, then I don't think we should approve it. I think we should table it.
okay.
Okay, thanks.
Rocky, did you want to comment on that, or did you want me to?
I'd like you to.
Okay.
I'd like to comment also.
Okay, John, go ahead and make your comment first, please.
Well, we had mentioned this in the last board meeting that, in fact, you said to remind you, that we felt that the park was going to pay for these because most people couldn't, and we were going to do it as we first we're going to ask for volunteers to do it if they would, please, and then if they can't because of finances or physical abilities, then the park was going to pay for it, and we were going to do it when, especially when a shed was repaired. And so I think that we kind of kicked that around, and we were going to add that to this proposal, as my understanding was from the last meeting.
Yes, John, and the proper way to do that is you can make a motion as a writer under the first one that's how we'll do it. In other words, you need to specify that. We would vote on that before we voted on the main motion. If it's accepted, then the main motion incorporates that. If it's rejected, then it goes back to the other. So if you want, I can't make the motion, but if you want to make that motion, the board will probably be receptive to it.
Okay, well, let's see if I can word it correctly. I make a motion or to this amendment to this motion that the park, first of all, ask leaseholders that if they have if they would volunteer to remedy these situations on their own, and if they are unable to for various reasons, such as health or finances, that the park then would pay for it, and that these repairs would be done as we repair the sheds throughout the park, and eventually all of them are going to have to be repaired. So that the park would take care of that as they repair the sheds.
Okay, if I can repeat that, let me see if this is acceptable to you. The park will pay to modify the sheds if the leaseholder is unable to make those needed repairs.
Member.
Excuse me. If the member is unable to make the needed ventilation repairs. Is that acceptable?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and furthermore, the park will bring sheds that are turned over up to this standard before releasing them for trade.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Do we need a second for that motion?
I second.
I second that. Susie here.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So, is there any more discussion on this issue?
I think you might want to
Yes,
say.
I have something to say.
Just a second, Patty, somebody else has the floor.
I think you might want to say
Okay,
unable or unwilling, because if you just say unable, who decides whether they're able or not? I mean, it's just kind of a technical word thing. Unable or unwilling.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, Mark Stallmaker, Lot 40. I was just gonna say something very similar. Why would not everybody be unable? I'm unable, the park's gonna pay for it. We're kind of treading on dangerous ground here. I think the idea that was originally written, that as the sheds turn over, the park will correct them. But it sounds to me like somebody's, or maybe John is proposing, fixing them now, all the non-conforming ones. That's quite a difference, but you guys are the bosses.
My understanding from what John is proposing is that we're going to ask people if they can fix the sheds, fine. Whether they're unable or unwilling, it's basically the same thing. If they don't do it, then when the shed is turned over, the park will have to do it anyway, just as we have to repair the sheds when they're needed. I'm going to do Patty and then Jerry. Patty?
okay, yes, Jim, I'm reading what we have. Under shed venting specifications, PCM proposal. This is a proposal from the PCM, and I guess lot improvement. And it's just some ideas that they're there. It's not written up. Are we going to vote on what we have in front of us? It seems inadequate to me at this point. It seems like it needs to be put in a different format, because if this is done, it should also be put in lot improvement or maybe rules and regs. I don't know. Maybe Susie had the right idea to table this and look at this a little harder.
You can make a move for that. However, you can only have two motions on the floor at once. Therefore, we have to vote on John's proposal, then another motion can come in if you're wanting to postpone this to the next meeting or to a specific time. I think Jerry has a comment.
Yeah, my comment is, I also think that it needs to be looked at a little bit closer. I'm concerned that it doesn't really say when we're gonna repair these things. It does mention in the specification that something about when there's a trade or exchange. I think we need to formalize that. And I think this discussion about putting it into the guidelines and whatnot is appropriate.
Okay, we have two paths we can go here. One, we can vote on John's modification and then make a motion to postpone this, or Rocky can withdraw her original motion, and then John automatically goes away, and then we can entertain another motion.
Yes, I'll rescind my motion.
Okay, Rocky rescinded the original motion, therefore John's motion is mute because there's no motion for it to be a rider on or a modification of. So, do I have another motion concerning this subject? Jerry?
Jerry would like to make a motion that this be discussed by the PCM committee, make sure it comes forward and is put into guidelines and rules as appropriate and brought to the board at a later date.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this subject be given further review by the PCM committee and brought back to the board. And Jerry, is there any specific time or just in the future? Just in the future?
Just in the future.
Just in the future. Any more discussion? Yes, Val?
Okay, I think that the PCM committee has gone as far as they can go with describing what the guidelines for the shed ventilation is. I think that part of the document is adequate. What we're discussing now is how we're going to police this.
How we're gonna implement.
So I think it can be two different things. I think we are in the position where we can approve or this particular document they have come up with. They've spent a lot of time on that, but they don't really know what the board wants from them as far as how to police it. So I think it's two different issues.
Okay, we have the motion, it's been motioned and seconded, it's on the floor to postpone this to sometime in the future, indefinite. If you want to make a rider on that to approve part of it and have the other part to be discussed later, you have to make a motion specifying that.
Okay, I move that we accept the document created by PCM committee regarding the specifications for shed ventilation. And then the board should come together at another time and create policy for policing this.
Do I have a second for Beth's motion?
Second it, John seconds it.
Okay, John seconds it. Okay, Beth has made a motion that the board accept the meat of the shed ventilation specifications as presented by TCM, and the discussion on enforcement and implementation of the policy will be handled at a later date. Is that
Correct.
correct? Any more discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All that are present, please raise in favor, please raise a hand. And I have 6. Patty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Susie?
Yes.
Okay, it's been passed unanimously. So, did I leave anything hanging out there?
I don't think so.
Okay. Circles within circles within circles. Okay. Lot 79 update. Who is handling that, Jerry?
Yeah, Lot 79 is in the process of, the letter has been sent and we haven't heard anything back to the best of my knowledge. But one of the things we should take up now that the lot has been transferred over to the control or ownership of the park, that we should open it up for rental use, and that the funds should come solely to the park.
Okay, that's a motion, correct?
Not well stated, but yes, that is a
Okay,
motion.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Bev, seconded. I have a question as far as the discussion. Since that lot is in foreclosure now, the park can rent it out. Has it been brought up to park standards yet? And if not, do we need to direct the park manager to do that before we put it in the room?
It has been brought up somewhat to park standards, not totally. They've killed off the weeds and, but I will write a directive to Randy to look at it and make sure that the shed is, well, the renters wouldn't be in the shed anyway.
We need to make sure that it's in a good enough shape to be
Yes.
put in the rental pool.
Right,
Correct? Okay.
And we need a directive to the office to put
to
the.
rent it.
To rent it.
Right.
And then as
It'll
part
be
of,
the same directive.
and that's part of your motion, correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Any more comment on this issue? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand that are present. and I have 5. John,
Yes.
Susie,
Yes.
and Patty.
Yes.
Okay, that makes it unanimous. Okay, now the Jack and Jill subcommittee guidelines, are these also, which are, let me find them, Sunshine Committee guidelines and guidelines for deaths and memorials? Is any board action required on this, or is this basically information?
This is Linda on 13. The actual Jack and Jill clubhouse guidelines that have been for years, I guess, are a work in progress.
Yes, I understand.
And those other things, you do not have to make any,
Okay.
those are just informational.
Okay, and they were very enlightening as far as I was concerned.
Okay.
So, no action at this time is required by the board on that issue.
Well, Jim, excuse me, are the guidelines up for us to approve as a board? Because the board does approve the Jackson Jill's guidelines.
No, the Jackson Jill guidelines are not up for approval. These are 2 subcommittees of Jackson Jill's that they gave the guidelines to the board for their information. Jackson Jill guidelines will probably be presented maybe in December or in January. I'm getting a nod from Linda Estes. January. Okay? Patty, did that answer your question?
No, because we were given a copy of this and it was on our agenda November the 11th. And this is their newest one that they've have revised. Isn't that correct?
No, they've said that they're still working on them.
So this guideline we have in our hand is
Is a
not
draft.
going to be addressed.
Yes.
It's a draft?
It's a draft.
Okay, it doesn't say that on there.
Well,
Go ahead, Linda.
I'm sorry that this is so mixed up, but we haven't, the committee that is going to, we haven't mentioned it to the Jack and Jill's at the monthly meeting. So therefore, we're going to do that this coming Monday. And maybe there would be others than the 4 of us on the Jack and Jill board that will meet and go over it line by line. Are we talking about that you have in your possession, Jack and Jill's activities committee and clubhouse guidelines?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we will be doing on December 1st, and hopefully we could, then you would present it to the Jack and Jill meeting, which is going to be on the 27th of December, and then it goes to the agenda in January and blah, blah.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Linda. It's clear as mud.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, actually,
Okay,
we
so
did
this one
understand
is-
that. So Patty, this will be presented to the board for approval on the January board meeting.
Okay, so this one is off calendar and to be resubmitted, I assume.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have a packet, thanks to Dar, of 5 items to be, they're the Finance Committee guidelines, they're reserve accounts, capital asset return replacement fund, utility assessment account, capitalization policy, and then a new excess room rental pool funds. I'm going to take these one at a time. Do I have a motion to accept the Finance Committee guidelines concerning reserve accounts? Jerry?
I make that motion to accept that?
It's been moved that we accept. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Sharon seconds. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All present in favor, please raise a hand. I have 5. Patty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Susie?
Yes.
Okay, approved unanimous. The next is the Capital Asset Repair Replacement Fund, which is CARF guidelines. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept the capitalization policy.
Sharon moves to accept. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jerry seconds it. Is there any discussion on this guideline? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor present, please raise a hand. I have 5. Susie?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Okay, the utility assessment account guidelines. Jerry?
I propose that we accept that as written.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Sharon seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All board members present in favor, please raise a hand. I have 5. Patty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Susie?
Yes.
Okay, number 4, capitalization policy. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the capitalization, I make a motion to accept the capitalization policy as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jerry seconds. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All present in favor, please raise a hand. I have 5. Okay. Susie?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Patty?
Yes.
Okay. And the last one is the distribution of excess rental pool funds policy and procedure. Since this is new, I am going to request that either I or the secretary read this at the meeting so everyone understands what's happening, because this is not just a guideline, this will be a policy. Do you want me to read it or do you want to?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Distribution of excess rental pool funds policy and procedures. Purpose: delineate the process to distribute excess funds from the Timber Valley Skid Park, the park rental pool into the Capital Asset Repair and Replacement Fund, CARF. This policy does not come into effect unless there is an excess of rental pool funds. Excess rental pool funds. Excess rental pool funds are those funds remaining in a general fund after the split between rental pool members and the park process has been completed. Excess funds are the result of several factors. Members who have their lots in the rental pool and relinquish their lot during the current fiscal year forfeit any credit they accrued. Members who have their lots in the rental pool receive credit toward their yearly maintenance fees. This credit can never exceed the member's fiscal year maintenance fee contribution. Increases in rent results in an increase in the total amount allocated to all participants. Procedure: rental pool members in the park split rental pool income per the rental pool procedure. When an excess of rental pool funds is calculated, the excess amount will be transferred from the general fund bank account to the CARF bank account.
Do I have a motion concerning this policy? Jerry?
I make a motion that we accept it as written.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Sharon seconds. We have a motion and a second to accept the distribution of excess rental pool funds policy and procedure. Are there any discussion on this? Sharon?
Thank you. I'm totally in favor of the policy, but I do have a question. That this is the first time that we've experienced this excess, and it's expected to occur more often in the future as fewer and fewer lots are in the rental pool. I don't understand that.
Because that changes how much per day. In other words, when we have the rental pool, if we have less lots that are available to it, then there's less lots that are distributed the money to. So each lot that is in the rental pool can accrue more money.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Jerry?
But it's also variable because the fewer lots, the less available money coming, income. So it'll depend. And that's a close statement. It may not be actually totally correct, but it's close. So, yeah, it's acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Hearing none, I will call the question. All present in favor, please raise a hand. Okay, I have 5. Patty?
Yes.
John?
Yes?
And Susie?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And I personally want to thank the Finance Committee for a yeoman's job they've done here on getting this all together. It's hard sometimes going from a group of people to running a business, and that's basically what you're doing. Okay, before I move on, is there any other new business that I have not brought before this? Okay, Rocky, you have audit report down here before we get to other. That was handled, I believe, at the workshop.
It was.
And so as far as I know, the board does not need to make any, except here's Jerry.
Sorry. All I want to say is I want to thank the audit committee for their work.
Yes.
And formally recognize that. And I don't know that we accept the report, but recognize that we did receive it and we'll take action on it.
Yes. Here. Okay, under other, I have one other item. The park has received a bill, hang on here. Okay, from Robert Day, I believe he's a leaseholder on lot 10, for alleged damage to the windshield of his pickup truck caused by a rock. The repair was $49. I will entertain a motion on this. Yes, Jeff?
I'd like to make a motion, wait a minute. My motion may be different than what you think, okay?
Well, it may not be, but.
I feel like we've had a couple of these issues in the past that we need to have something in writing, a little more than just a bill. So, I mean, this is, like you said, it's alleged. I don't necessarily disagree with paying for it, but I'd like to see something from the person submitting a bill like this in writing stating what happened. Maybe from the operator of the equipment that supposedly caused the damage, and any witnesses.
Well, my understanding is the operator didn't know that there was any damage that was confirmed.
Did the operator know that he was throwing rocks?
I haven't.
We don't
No,
know.
we don't know. This comes down, unfortunately, to he said, she said.
Exactly, that's why I'd like to have something else included.
The question is, I understand, this one claim is problematic for a couple of reasons. However, we have no way of saying that, no, it didn't happen. And so the question is, it's a very small amount, to be honest.
Yes, on this one it is, but for the future,
But when,
just something else in writing is all I'm asking for.
would you be amenable to, before it's authorizing the payment of this to Kim, but before that, asking for him a written statement of what happened? That way, we don't have to postpone this again and again.
Now, I don't mind paying for this particular one necessarily, but I would like to have something besides a bill from whoever is submitting this type of a bill, so yes.
Is that a motion?
I move that we pay this bill and then ask the gentleman to just submit a statement, and in the future, a statement should accompany any bill.
Okay, do I have a second for that motion? Okay, it's been moved and
I
seconded.
second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we pay this bill, but that we ask Mr. Day to submit a written explanation of the circumstances of the bill. And that we also instruct him to pay this bill. Is there any more discussion?
Peggy?
Jim, Susie here.
Susie, yes.
Do we have anything in the park labeled like an incident report or something like that, where we could tell our members that if something happens, they have to fill out the form, the date, the time, what happened, sign it, and then deal with it? Or do we not have anything like that?
As far as I know, we do not have anything. I do know that Kim and the office assistant both wrote down the particulars when this claim was put in, and it has been put in the file for this leasehold.
But don't you think we should have something formally
I
so that
think-
they don't forget to ask a certain question, dated and signed?
I think that that's an issue for another time, you know what? Otherwise, we're getting off this particular one. So.
Got it, okay, sounds good.
Make a note on your to-do list.
Will do, thank you.
And did you have a comment, Peggy?
On another subject.
Oh, okay. We'll get to you in a moment.
Jim,
Hang on,
I have
hang
a
on.
comment on this.
Okay, Patty.
Okay, I agree with what Beth says. I think we should pay this bill and go from there. I agree with what Susie is also saying is, for the future, we need to come up with a written plan for people to submit. This should have been submitted with a letter along with the receipt, I think, and then given to the board like next month. So we would have had it on our agenda and handled it more timely. Nevertheless, we're going to vote on it now. My question is, on the copy of the receipt, there's a signature and it's dated November the 16th. This bill was paid by Mr. Day on November the 3rd. Whose signature is that on the receipt with 11/16 date?
That's Randy's.
That's Randy's.
Okay. Okay, so he received the receipt and gave it to the office, I guess. Is that what happened?
I'm not sure, but I think probably Kim has the receipt, and Kim gave it to Randy to sign on the 16th.
Okay, all right. That's
Now, I'm just assuming
we
that.
can go forward with. Okay.
Did you have anything else, Rocky?
It needs to have further discussion in the future. Okay, go ahead and we can vote on that motion, Jim.
Go ahead, Rocky.
I do have a written statement from Melissa and Kim about Robert Day. On 11/2, Robert Day, number 10, came into the office to voice concerns about the mower kicking up rocks and hitting someone's car or RV while they were trying to clear the leaves. Randy was notified of concern. Day left on an errand and came back to find a crack in his RV windshield from a rock. He notified Randy and the office. The office supplied a list of windshield repair shops nearby. So it wasn't the RV windshield, and it says he was gone, and then he came back and found it. I don't,
Yes, as I said, it's problematic. I calculated the chances of someone complaining that, hey, the rock's being kicked up, and then theirs being the only one that was hit, and I come up with about 22,000 to 1. But there's always that one. So as I said, don't know what the circumstances really are, but there's a motion here to go ahead and pay this bill. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call all those in favor of paying the bill, raise a hand. And I have 5. Patty?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
And last but not least, Susie?
Yes, sir.
And will the secretary then please send a directive to Kim to pay the bill, but also I think the board needs to send a letter asking for that, we're going to pay the bill, but would you send a letter to Mr. Day requesting just a written explanation of the circumstances?
okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? Peggy had something.
Yes, I do. It's a recurring problem every year this time, and it's turkeys. I had 38 of them on my lot the other day. They are not appreciated, and I just wonder if there's any plan to trap them.
Let Rocky deal with that one.
As I understand it, the Fish and Game that usually come out and take care of the turkeys does not have the manpower to do that this year.
And that's what I was informed of, that, because I asked about this and was informed that this year, we can't do it. It's Fish and Game has to be the one to do it. And they're not doing that and COVID, I'm sure, has something to do with it this year. And there are a bunch of them, I understand.
I know this flock of 38, which is seen frequently, isn't the only flock.
Yeah, there's the newborns.
Where did this information come from?
The Fish and Game Wildlife Department.
Well, then we're getting 2 different stories that need to be checked out. I called Fish and Game yesterday to ask if they're trapping because of COVID. Who knows what's going on this year? I talked to Anthony, who's the head of the trapping crew, and he said, oh yes, we're doing the same as usual. This is the perfect time to get your name on the list, and they'll be trapping November through February. And he gave me a phone number to call. He said, ask for me or anybody on the trapping crew. There are 4 of them.
Okay. Rocky, since you are the liaison to the park manager, would you get that information from Peggy and give it to Randy and have him investigate this again, please? Because if you can get them, if you can get rid of them, but I was told a month ago that they weren't coming out.
He seemed surprised that I was even questioning it. So, I don't know.
And thank you for your research.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Thank you for your research.
Oh, I'll do anything to get rid of turkeys.
And Jerry?
Feeder. I'd like to do some, pass on some information about what's going on in the office, if that's all right.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, the office will be closed on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. I was told yesterday by Kim that in the past, that she's been asked to take sick leave on that day, which I think is inappropriate. And maybe that's something that our committee will look at, the appropriateness of taking sick leave on the day after. She said she would prefer to take annual leave, but irrespective, we need to look at that. Kim is also pleased with the work that Melissa, our temporary employee, is doing. She's catching on very quickly. I did talk to her the other day, Melissa, and tried to get her thoughts on what our plans were, whether long-term or short-term. It appears that she is considering long-term with the park, so we'll continue to watch that. I did buy phones for the office, a Panasonic set for the office, because the phones in the office were brought in. They are actually Kim's phones and were brought in from her home. And so thought we should replace those. And I know the mail committee had requested that they were not able to adjust the volume on the phones in there. And so the new phones will be able to do that. And then also, I believe everybody on the board got a copy of the directory to the bylaws and rules and regulations. I don't think that needs to be approved necessarily by the board, but I think the board should be aware of that. And I don't think it needs to be voted on, but I think it needs to be recognized that that is in existence. Okay?
Good work.
Okay, is there anything else that needs to be brought? Art?
Yeah, one answer to Art Hampton, 94.
Your mic's
There is, I brought in this morning, a box over there that has the home phone with the satellites, 2 satellites with it. But maybe you can give that to her to replace the one in,
We've already replaced them.
They've already replaced them. Well, thank you, Art.
okay.
Okay. Tom?
Yes, one thing I forgot during my little communications committee report this morning is that the Timber Valley Log, our newsletter, is once again starting January 1st without an editor. Susie Rupert has resigned from doing that task, and she's got a lot of other activities going on, and it's just time for her stint to be over. So if anyone is interested in being part of that solution, the Communications Committee will be working on this during the month of December, and we'll try and come up with a solution. So just wanted you to be aware.
Thank you, Tom. Is there anything else to be brought before this board? Seeing and hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Boy, that's
Thank you.
That's a wimpy little.
She didn't want me to